Chris.
Heath.
I'm feeling refreshed.
After blasting the AC?
Well, we did do that for 2 seconds.
2 critical seconds.
Just the homeostasis of maximum audio quality and maximum beads of sweat that I gotta do. But that's good for the thumbnail.
Right? Yeah.
If I look like a stuck pig. If I look like I'm Animal Farm. No, what was the book with the pig in it? Lord of the Flies.
Lord of the Flies.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's what our listeners crave.
Oh, hell. What do they crave?
A fresh new episode of Mobius Tubes, a video game podcast, coming to you from the depths of summer. This is episode 90, being recorded on August 6th, 2023.
Coming to you from an undisclosed upstate New York location. IP addresses. Beep, boop, 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 beep, beep, beep.
Sure, yeah. Physical addresses.
Oh, stop. Please stop. That's the threshold. Is first they know your last name, then they know your address, and then they know your BC Calc score. And I'll go to the grave with that.
I'm sure there's enough personal information that could be piecemealed together across these 90 episodes where a listener could find us.
Ah, yikes. Don't invite that.
No.
No. Chris, I've played a pitiful number of games.
You're going to hop right into it. I mean, I've got stuff to talk about, so I endorse this approach. Pitiful amount of games. What do you attribute that to?
I attribute it to... Have we talked about... I mean, you know my line of work, right?
Yes.
I'm a movie studio.
A movie studio, and these are harsh times for
The
that
strike's
industry.
going on.
Yes.
I can't even get Jamie Foxx. That's besides the point. The actors are on strike, so I can't. So yeah, I chalk it up to just I game when I can, and part of when I can is while I'm asleep. So I played Pokemon Sleep.
Oh, you've done it.
Which came out just before Bailey's birthday. It is a sleep tracking app. Lack of productivity software.
Yeah.
Masquerading as a Pokemon game.
With the Pokemon window dressing. Very
much so. And when it's not sleeping, it's just farming. So if I open it up, Professor blah 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 greets me and says that we're studying Pokemon by sleeping. And it says, leave your phone face down on your pillow at night. And then you wake up and you look at, I got a sleep score of 84. And what does that attribute to? It attributes to your dozing sleep, your snoozing sleep, and the third one, just out like a Geodude sleep.
Is that when your eyes are REM sleep?
So you're on the right track. So there's REM sleep, there's deep sleep, and then there's like kiddie pool shallow sleep.
Okay.
I don't know. Hey, whatever.
Dipping your toes in the water of sleep.
Very, very scientific. So that's what it's doing. And it's attributing, you're a snoozing type, because apparently I spent 41% of my sleep in REM as opposed to deep or whatever, blah, blah, blah.
That's probably not desirable.
I have issues. Because I slept that way, I attracted fire types and electric types.
Interesting.
It gatekeeps. If you can't get a restful sleep, you're never going to be able to catch the Mewtwo. So I slept a certain way. I attracted a certain type of Pokemons. I gave the Pokemons Poke Biscuits. The Poke Biscuits encouraged them to go get trees. It's farming. And so I've only done it once.
Last night?
Yeah, but there's tons of daily rewards if you keep a streak and if you sleep real good and something like that. And the only funny things of note are if people have been complaining on Twitter, do the Pokemon have to look exhausted and like war weary if you don't get a good night's sleep? Particularly Meowth, I saw a screenshot. If you don't get a good night's sleep, he's just like, just at odds with the world. So there's your incentive. Yeah. So it doesn't track sleep nearly as well as any wearable tech or any other app on the market.
Is it just your audio from your dozing?
That's right. No heartbeat, nothing. It's just audio. And we had the fan on, so who knows?
Who knows? Where do you position your phone?
Just right in my mouth. No, it's just to the left to to the left.
Okay.
It's where all good things go. So I played that, if that counts as play.
What are the chances next episode you're still using this app?
A testimonial said that no, it doesn't promote you. It's ineffective in its sleep tracking and encouraging you to go to bed. What it does encourage you to do is it requires so many button presses and taps on your phone in the morning that wakes you up. It's a good snooze button defeater.
Okay. Because it needs too much input.
That's the only silver lining is you're waking up and you want to check the stats so you're less likely to just roll over onto your other side and sleep longer.
Yeah.
So I might persevere just for that.
And
also my lizard brain loves a good dopamine.
Yep, gamifying sleep.
Yeah.
Does this have any cross synergy with Pokemon Go?
You can probably transfer a certain type of Pokemons from this to your Poke Home.
Yes.
Which then has cross-platform with other games. I don't know. The gotta catch 'em all has eluded me ever since I swore off Pokemon after the great Gen 3. Whatever. I like Gen 3.
Okay.
Obviously, because I was born in 95.
Yeah. That's your cutoff.
Right.
That makes sense. I remember when you brought this up during its announcement in the news section.
And I was like, oh God, I can't wait for 2023 so I can sleep my Pokemon. I don't know. Because I was probably even worse. Now that I have to come home every night to make dinner, I am sleeping more. But when I was in my youth, circa
3 weeks ago.
I would burn the midnight oil.
Right. Yeah. I felt like this was announced ages ago. I thought it had disappeared, never going to
it's back.
Never going to release. But yeah, here it is. It's definitely one of the apps of 2023, right?
And I guess all of my gaming has been mobile gaming. I know, and the crowd goes mild. So I'm hoping to get back into the real video games. Maybe even sparks of hope. No, I'm just kidding. But that's the nature of what I have time for. I watched the Barbie movie.
You still snapping?
Yeah, I played Marvel.
Snap?
Yeah, I unlocked Red Skull today.
Oh, cool. Is that
he has a high power level, but each of your opponent's cards opposite him get +2 power as well.
Okay.
So it's real feast or famine, whether or not your opponent loads the board with just filler.
Right. You want him by himself.
Right.
Before we circle back to Barbie movie, I thought I'd hit you with this segment. So I'm in video game cleanup mode right now. Ghostwire Tokyo knocked it off the list.
Wilmot's Warehouse. Oh, sorry. That's a game in cleanup mode, but not as you meant.
Very true. Bayonetta 3 hit the credits.
Oh my! Oh, we have to.
It Takes Two, all finished. I'm just knocking off games left and right, which, the year's more than halfway over. I thought I would check in on both of our New Year's resolutions for video games, and I'll just do a quick status update for how I'm doing.
Please remind me.
So for Chris, here we go. My biggest, most ambitious goal for the year was to complete 25 games before the end of 2023.
Oh, you're well on your way.
With the completion of those 3 games, this episode, I have now finished 16 games this year. How does that compare? That means I am 64% of the way to my 25 games goal, and the year is 60% over.
Okay.
So I'm treading water. I am keeping pace, ever so slightly ahead of schedule, which means the goal is still attainable. I'm on track. My other less important goals were to finish up my 2019 specific game backlog, which I'm doing all right on. I did finish Death Stranding. I knocked off Resident Evil 2 Remake. I dipped into Untitled Goose Game, which I wasn't even planning to do, but it popped up.
It's the game of the year.
Game of the year. During the resolution episode, I name dropped, in order for this goal to be complete, I need to finish Sekiro and finish The Outer Worlds.
Oh.
Those were the two I called out by name that I need to do.
Those are beefy.
Those are beefy. Still possible. It's only like 2 more games, but there'll be an update on those later this episode.
Oh.
And then finally, I said I'd finish a Yakuza game, which I have yet to do. But I've at least started one. Haven't talked about it yet. But so I think I'm doing all right. I know it's not a slam dunk yet, but I'm within striking distance of these goals. Do you happen to remember what your New Year's resolutions were?
My New Year's resolution was beat Planet Zoo, add Europa Universalis as a desktop shortcut. No, I have no idea.
Okay. Your goal was very explicit. You named 5 games you were going to hit the credits on.
Please tell me I didn't say Dark Souls.
How many of the 5 do you think you finished?
Oh, I finished 2.
You finished 1, but you're close to 2.
Okay.
So you said you'd finish up Mass Effect 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Which you're well on your way to doing. You said you'd roll the credits on The Witcher 3,
Still gonna.
Prey, and Dishonored 2.
I'm looking forward to Prey.
You've been looking forward to it for years now. Can't wait. I need any moment now.
Well, now I have a pay-checkered excuse to live stream, so that might be different.
Whoa. Then you'd come to the episode with tons to talk about.
Yeah, but we'll see how it comes.
So I thought I'd squeak in that New Year's resolution update only because it's going to take the place of Ghostwire Tokyo Talk, because despite the fact that I finished Ghostwire Tokyo.
You got to remind me what this game looks like. My brain tells me Shadowrunner Tactics or whatever that other game is.
Oh, sure. It's a big open world, modern day Japan.
Isometric?
You're no first person shooter.
Okay.
Shooting magic out of your fingertips, fighting spirits and stuff. It's a Ubisoft open world game made by Bethesda.
I gotta look at this.
Made by specifically Tango Gameworks. The reason we're not talking about it, despite I brought it to the show once before, I was about a dozen hours in. I finished the game, put in a whole other additional 20 hours. I have nothing else to say about this game. It's almost remarkable.
So like the vertical slice is like the bottom is like some like the pie crust, the crumb, but then the rest of it is just like 90% meringue. It's like there's nothing else to say.
Yeah, it's once you've seen the first 3 to 4 hours, you've seen rinse and repeat the rest of the game. All of my old impressions, they remain consistent, accurate. None of my feelings changed. There's nothing to dig into here.
Not enough Ghost, not enough Tokyo,
but just enough wire.
Just enough wire.
So yeah, I was struggling to come up with anything of substance to say, so let's just move right along.
Yeah.
To something I do have stuff to talk about, and that's Bayo 3.
Yes.
Bayonetta.
This is gonna color my entire perception
Of the franchise?
Yeah.
Okay.
What you say?
Cool. I've got some fun takes on this game. Here we go. We'll do a little quick spoiler section of the end.
Great.
But non-spoiler thoughts first. I left off my first impressions. I was halfway through the game. And I've got to say,
Viola is trash.
Viola, I cooled a little bit on her gameplay style just because what you said was accurate. Her moveset is so much more limited than Bayonetta. Now, there's only
which wouldn't matter if this weren't a character action game. That's the whole point.
Yes, it's all about player expression and styling on your opponents with the robust move list.
It's not a fighting game where if you don't care for a character, you can just switch to Guile.
Right. When a Viola chapter pops up, you have no choice. You're playing it, and that's it. But I finished the latest in Platinum's character action game, stylish, sexy franchise, Bayonetta, and I am...
Did you get blocked on Twitter by the funny man?
Hideki Kamiya,
Yeah.
I think. I have not, but only that's probably because
you
I'm
have not been on Twitter.
I haven't been using X.
Oh, I hope that gets reversed. I hope, yeah.
I don't understand that decision. Not that I care. But, okay, when I left off, I was in the doldrums of the middle of Bayonetta 3, where it drags a little bit. At this point, you've been introduced and well acquainted with the formulaic approach of, okay, jump into the new dimension, meet the new Bayonetta, she dies, and you get her demon buddy, and you move on to the next era. So it is becoming a little bit formulaic. I have to say, this is a game where I thought I was falling prey to the sunk cost fallacy.
Prey. Oh, sorry.
Where I was close enough to the end where I thought I might as well power through. I can count this towards my 25 games completed. It had lost its luster, but then finishing the game, boy, I'm glad I did. I think they saved the strongest chapters of the game are the final 3 chapters.
No! That was the wrong conclusion.
It left me on such a high note. So
you were the only person who feels this way.
Let's just section off the narrative implications
Death
for a little
Stranding's final. Oh man!
Let's talk about the narrative later.
I loved sitting on that beach.
Mechanically, the final 3 chapters, I had a blast. Who knew the best alternate dimension in Bayonetta 3 was France?
I did know that.
You did know that?
Yeah, I heard about it.
Chapter 12 is my favorite chapter. It's very musical. The gameplay is as good as ever, but for whatever reason, in Chapter 12, they went hard in the cutscene department. It's just full of like whimsy and almost like Kojima levels of ridiculous.
Uh-huh.
You fight the mind-controlled army of France, but they do like a Michael Jackson Thriller dance number first before you fight them.
Of course, naturally.
And the crescendo of the climax of the France dimension is the best boss fight of the game. It was so good.
Yes. And then immediately after is Dumpster Fire.
Okay. I feel differently about that. We'll save that for the spoiler section. Just push it down the line. Bayonetta 3 has cemented what I think is a rule of video games, a new law even. Any scene in a video game involving opera is just pure gold. And that's the case in Nier Automata, the opera singer boss fight. There's the iconic opening of, I think, Final Fantasy VI, the big opera scene. People love it. And now Bayonetta 3, the opera boss, incredible. Great musical number. I believe there's references to like the Fifth Element, that movie.
Oh, with Bruce Willis?
The sci-fi one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That movie's weird.
I like that movie.
I haven't even seen it.
Okay. It's one of the few movies I've got on you then. So, yeah, just riding a high at the end of Bayonetta 3. I do have one criticism I didn't mention last episode, but it really stuck out to me in this final couple play sessions of mine. While making Bayonetta 3, it seems like Platinum Games, the developer, was terrified of players getting burned out on repetitive combat sections. It seemed like Platinum was very reluctant for you to just go from arena to arena doing the great fighting, because they throw in so many of these set piece like escape sequences where you end up riding on this giant demon or a giant entity or doing some like platforming. They throw in these palate cleansers, let's call them, that are supposed to improve the pacing of the game, make it so you're not just engaging with the combat. But what drags all of these interstitial little segments down is the rules overhead. You get these totally custom, bespoke control scheme tutorials thrown at you. Okay, you're going to do an escape sequence right now, riding this giant spider. Memorize these controls for how you control your giant spider.
Oh, okay. It's
okay,
totally novel.
I need to commit all these novel new things to memory. And then time and time again, this escape sequence will last 45 seconds, and you'll never revisit that control scheme ever again. It's just, you spend 60 seconds memorizing it, 45 seconds executing, and then it's never revisited. It's just so much rules overhead for so little payoff. That happens at least a dozen times in the game. Oof. Just these totally custom, ornate control schemes. It just grinds the pacing.
Mario Party is that way.
It's meant to inject variety, but it just grinds the pacing to a halt. What should be a fast, frenetic action game, instead you're doing like Simon Says, can I remember what these rules are? Yeah, so that was my criticism about the pacing and the set pieces. And yeah, went out on a high note as far as I'm concerned. let's talk about the ending. Yeah. All right. So anyone who cares about Bayonetta 3 spoilers, skip to the next section of the podcast. There's timestamps. Heath, what have you heard?
I'm racking my brain to try to I'm reading the comments of a muted YouTube video of a spoiler cast, and I got nothing. So you got to fill.
Okay. I think I know what the criticisms are, and I can defend why they didn't bother me. And you can be the judge, jury, and executioner on this. So, Bayonetta 3, you reach the end. This, of course, is the Into the Spider-Verse of the Bayonetta franchise. You're dimension hopping. At the end, you're fighting the big homunculus guy. It's a twist. Dr. Sigurd, who you thought was an ally, even though
singularity.
He's the big bad, even though he shares the same color scheme as all the homunculus enemies, and it seemed pretty transparent that he was like associated with them. He's the big bad. You're fighting him in the final climactic battle. Ooh, there's some fan service I appreciated. The Bayonetta from Bayonetta 1 and 2 come to your aid.
Amazing.
With their character designs, because Bayonetta looks different in all three games, and they help out. They quickly get knocked out, which is fun. I just like that they showed up at all. When you're fighting him, Dr. Sigurd kills Bayonetta.
You're right.
In Bayonetta 3, she dies. She gets
dragged into Inferno.
Dragged into Inferno, because she's a witch. She has all the pacts with the demons. Her soul is forfeit. She goes down with her love interest, Luca, who in this dimension of Bayonetta, the Bayonetta 3 dimension, she and Luca are an item, a romantic couple, and they have a daughter being Viola.
Uh-huh.
And then they get sucked down to Inferno, they're gone, and they set up in the post-credits scene that when this franchise continues forward into the next generation, it says, the new Bayonetta will be Viola. Of course, Bayonetta herself, her name is Sarisa. It's a handing off of the torch. The title of Bayonetta is bestowed to Viola, and she will be the protagonist going forward whenever a Bayonetta 4 is released. What do people dislike? People don't like Luca as Bayonetta's romantic love interest.
He makes her like a damsel in distress.
I don't think so. I think the main thing people don't like is people saw Bayonetta as like a really queer-coded character, so that she's
a Sigma woman.
That she would end up with a man they felt maybe a missed opportunity. Bayonetta, I feel like she flirts with anything that moves, so I don't think it's out of character for her to end up with a man.
Right.
Luca himself being like
corny.
Being one of two comedic relief characters, having Bayonetta end up going for him seems maybe a bit out of character.
Should have gone for Rodin.
I don't know if he's on the market. He seems very
elusive.
Yeah, unattached. I don't think there's a character in the game that really suits Bayonetta romantically, but
that's probably true.
Yeah, out of this poor list of characters, Luca makes decent sense. I guess he's the best of the bad options. People wanted her to go with Jean, but I feel like they've got this frenemies thing going on. So for them to be romantically involved didn't strike me as logical. Now, of course, how much do I care about the romance in Bayonetta? Not at all. So this did not irk me in the slightest. What I think a lot of people really don't like is Bayonetta dying and Viola being her new substitute.
Right.
And because this is a very tonally different character. Bayonetta, full of confident swagger. Viola, kind of a goofball, slapstick, comedy, Looney Tunes type girl. So that'll be a very tonally different game with her as the protagonist. Her moveset isn't as fleshed out, but I assume if you gave her her own full dedicated game, they would remedy that issue. Yeah, I'm fine with a change of pace. I feel like we've got 3 Bayonetta games. They all stick very closely to the tried and tested formula. If you want more Bayonetta as the protagonist, just go backwards and replay those games. A 4th Bayonetta would not
I would put money on there not being a fourth one.
I mean, that's definitely a possibility. There is like when credits are done, it says to be continued in the next generation. Now, whether that gets funded or not, who can say? But it seems like their intention is to continue the series.
Hideki's intention or Platinum's?
Doesn't he work at Platinum?
I mean, didn't Kojima work at Konami?
I mean, he didn't leave, which would be what makes those two situations different.
They're gonna make Hideki work on something else.
Okay. I mean, that's within the realm of possibility. Maybe they'll give it a long break, but no, the ending didn't bother me in the slightest. I wasn't deeply invested in the exploits of these characters, but I think I like the bold choice to retire the face of your franchise. That's a choice. That's going for something.
Yeah, but you can do that without telling Solid Snake to hand over the keys to like who's like I was gonna say a lame character from Revengeance, but there is none.
Yeah, that's the trouble with that game. They're all cool.
They're all so cool. They're all so edgy. When you go down to Mexico, isn't there like a lame character in Revengeance? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, the DLC boss, Kamzen.
Yeah.
That guy.
Sure.
He'd be lame.
Yeah, and if Solid Snake was like, "You're the guns of the Patriots now."
Sure.
We don't have attachment to Metal Gear either.
No, not.
I gotta pick something.
Pick something?
First of all, I gotta go listen to the Bayonetta 3 gospel.
Sure.
So I can
refute all my
put you
points.
back in your place.
Put me on blast.
Oh no, I'll contextualize it. I'll be like, it would be if Geralt X, you know.
Sure.
It would be if Liara X.
You're missing some context.
Yeah.
Sure. But yeah, I was fine with it.
You're saying Bayonetta 3 is better than Bayonetta 2?
Bayonetta 2 is my favorite. I do rank 3 above the first one, though.
Fine.
3 is greater than 1. 2 is greater than 3. That's how I'd rank them. Cool.
I don't know if cool is the right word.
And yeah, that was Bayonetta 3. Also, there's so much of this game I didn't experience. You unlock so many weapon sets by the end that I never even equipped. Mm-hmm. You could replay this game 4 times.
Yeah, you not being Viola. They're all Bayonetters.
Yeah, all belong to Bayonetta. By the end, I like the novelty of, oh wow, they threw a train in this game. You can control a Big Ben clock tower that just shoots out of the ground.
That's why you like this game.
It swings for the fences and often hits with how goofy it gets.
I got nothing to say because I don't know the. You could be talking up Immortality right now, and I'd be like, "Oh, the trailer looks good." Little did I know.
You fell for my trap card.
Yeah, this is absolutely.
You, Heath, should not play anything named Bayonetta.
No.
You won't like it.
Not even that isometric storybook spinoff.
Yes. Bayonetta Origins.
Curse of the something. Yep.
Apparently that game is good. Actually, better than I thought it turned out. It has the gimmick from Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, where you've got 2 characters that you control independently with thumbsticks. Speaking of Brothers and Hazelight, I've been playing It Takes Two.
Yeah.
And completed it with Samantha. It was great. So let's talk about this game. It charmed me. This is the 2-player cooperative, mandatory cooperative puzzle platforming game that came out in 2021. Dark Horse come from behind winner of the Game Awards that year.
Crazy. Pretty
crazy. Where you play as a couple going through divorce, May and Cody, who just a regular suburban middle-class couple, and with their daughter Rose, and the relationship is right at the end on the rocks, and Rose, their daughter, finds this magical book of love and wishes that her parents would rekindle their love for each other and patch up this relationship. And she cries, and her magical tears transform this titular couple into...
Whoa, we're small.
Yeah, it's Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. They're tiny. And in order to get back to their human forms, they
Have to platform.
have to platform their way to a successful relationship. It's a very hokey premise, but man, it's a good video game.
The gameplay sure is gameplay.
Gameplay sure does shine through. So,
Which has always been Joseph's calling card.
yes, you have experience with this studio with A Way Out,
A Way Out.
which you were pretty hot on. You liked that game.
I liked it. Sure, yeah.
And this is like their second crack at that mandatory co-op formula. And from what I've heard, it's like even better. I'm now curious enough to head backwards and try A Way Out.
Sure.
Because this game impressed me that much. Now, it's definitely not without its criticisms.
A Way Out is going to feel like Alan Wake compared to It Takes Two.
What is...
Big XBLA button quick time presses.
Oh, okay. I know exactly the UI quirks you're talking about
Some
on
like
the screen.
Crude LA Noir-esque graphics.
Okay. So, some high-level observations playing through It Takes Two.
Make that daughter cry.
It makes me yearn for more of these like mandatory cooperative campaign games, since that's a largely underexplored design space. I think there's tons of cooperative games out there, but a lot of them they're cooperative or single player. They're not built with that inherent underlying assumption that no, you will have a partner with this game or not at all, because that lets you do a lot of gameplay gimmicks that just wouldn't be possible without that baked-in assumption.
I would love to play Splinter Cell Conviction with you, co-op.
Okay. That game, it's not co-op only, right?
The co-op mode is.
Oh, it's got a dedicated co-op mode that's like separate.
Yeah.
Kind of like a Portal 2 situation.
Kinda.
Yeah. So the advantage of having that assumption that you definitely have a partner when you play this game is the gameplay variety gets to do some really cool asymmetrical things where they divide your responsibilities between you and your partner in really fun yin and yang ways where you support each other and you don't have similar move sets. They can really divide up your play style. Case in point, an early level in the tool shed. Whoever plays as May gets the hammer ability, and whoever's Cody gets the nails. And the hammer has the ability to like latch onto the nails and spin around and get big acrobatic jumps off of them, to do all the cool platforming. Where Cody, that was where I came in. The nails, I can like shoot them into any surface, any flat surface in the game, creating the platforming opportunities for my partner wherever I see fit. So that's maybe a great example of how they divide up responsibilities, where the hammer player's handling all the platforming, and I'm doing like the higher level planning of how am I going to get my partner through this environment. I chart the path and they execute.
Yeah.
We're operating on very different levels there. You are never both doing the same thing at the same time. Just the other really fun example that I want to highlight without spoil. The great news is there's so much variety in this game. Citing two examples won't spoil hardly anything. But you go inside the tree level with the hornets and the giant squirrels. And as Cody, I had this like honey sap spray gun where I'm shooting out this honey projectile. It's very physics-based. There's a weight to it, so I can weigh down platforms with it or pile up a big chunk of it and draw patterns in the sand or something. Slow down enemies, where my partner had like a matchstick shooting gun, which apparently this honey I'm spewing everywhere is
highly flammable.
So my partner can ignite it with explosive results. And the effect here is that one partner is setting up all the dominoes with the honey and the other one's knocking it down. So you inherently need to cooperate. And my favorite puzzle in the whole game, it was very cool, physics-based, thinking outside the box. There was a little bit of tricky platforming where I, as Cody, got up on this high ledge, but I was progress blocked by this gate that I didn't have the ability to destroy. But I was so high up, the line of sight did not work out so that my partner, May, on the ground floor, she couldn't shoot this gate to open it up for me. It was just, there was around a corner. There was no way she could see it. Of course, my first thought is, how do I get my partner up on this high ledge with me so that we can bust it open? And we were thinking it through and not coming up with any results. And the cool physics-based solution was that the property of my honey, I could create like an explosive trail around the corner of the blocking line of sight, such that I piled up the honey at the gate and then like had a fuse that I wrapped around the corner that my partner could see. It ignite the fuse that would then explode all the way back to the gate and open it up.
Yeah.
That's some cool. That's almost like some Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, like physical properties going on there.
Yep.
So puzzles, all in all, a higher quality than I was expecting going into this game. And the platforming is tight and responsive, and they throw ideas at you left, right, and center. If the Achilles heel of Bayonetta 3 was the stop and start pacing of, oh man, I need to learn these new controls. Oh, it's over. Okay, back to combat. Oh, I'm Viola now. Back to Bayonetta. There's Jean stealth. It's just constantly interrupting your flow. Then the greatest strength of It Takes Two was the impeccable pacing. Every level lasts the perfect duration, where they introduce this brand new, very creative gameplay gimmick, fully explore it, and then you're on to the next thing right before it gets stale. And they rinse and repeat that so many times. This game is jam-packed with creative platforming ideas that were robust enough that would have supported a longer game with each of these individual ideas. But no, you just get this constant buffet of fun things to try with the tool shed platforming nails and the explosive goo honey stuff and the magnet level and lots of good ideas.
You can see why it got Game of the Year.
I can now... It may not have been my choice, but I can understand it. I have not played a game quite like it. It really stands apart from many of its contemporaries. It's a one-of-a-kind experience, I think.
Until they make It Takes Three.
Right, until whatever Hazelight comes up with next, which I don't think we know what their next announced project is. Now, I've got to say, platforming, game feel, great. Variety, awesome. Visually, really pretty game. Lots of visual variety. Everything from when you're inside the cuckoo clock and it's like ornate gears. Just a visual tour de force. Like, I think you could suck a lot of game curious people in with how good this game looks. Lots of things worth praising about It Takes Two. Depending on which component of this game you're examining, the quality of the game can vary wildly.
Yeah.
So everything I've said I've been smitten with it. If we start to talk about the game's story, hoo boy, it's a really uneven.
Don't they have to upset the daughter at one point and she starts crying and they go, yay!
Let's dig into this. Okay. You're right. What you're saying is accurate. So I won't spoil anything too harshly here, but talking in broad strokes, man, the writing in this game is weird. All right, a lot of it I think is bad, but a lot of it's not even that bad. It's just weird, and I can't even tell what kind of a tone they're going for in the game. The small cast of characters is really unlikable. It's hard to find a single sympathetic person in this entire cast.
The book is annoying.
So let's talk about the most egregious is Dr. Hakim, the Book of Love. This
almost like Rabbids tone.
So it's this book your daughter found. It's clearly supposed to be this like cheesy romance advice book from like the 70s. It's antiquated and really out of date. But he becomes like personified magically and is a character who talks to you in this vaguely European accent. And I guess what they were going for is he's supposed to be like this cringe character that I think you and your co-op partner, every time he pops up on screen, which is quite frequent.
Not this guy again.
You're supposed to like roll your eyes together and commiserate with how cringy and painful he is to listen to. I guess that's what they're going for, and they definitely succeed because every time he's there, me and Samantha elicited a big groan. But if it wasn't really funny. It was just, man, we both enjoyed dunking on him.
Yeah.
So there's him, cringe humor. That's all he's good for. You've got your new two main protagonists, these soon-to-be divorced couple, May and Cody. They are
bad parents.
They're bad parents. They get stuck in this, outrageous situation of, we're tiny now. They're not very worried about the fact that their daughter has been left to their young daughter, Rose, is left to her own devices. There's these funny cutscenes where they go back to what's happening with Rose, and she keeps finding the vacant husk bodies of her parents that are just comatose in the house because their souls have been sucked out into these tiny little dolls.
Yeah.
And Rose is very unperturbed by this, almost as if she's used to these absentee parents. This is to be expected. Being completely ignored by her parents. They at one point show Rose like cooking dinner for herself because she's been abandoned so long. Rose is a young child, very unemotive. She just takes it all on the chin, kind of, that her parents are like apparently clocked out. And eventually Rose is going to like leave the house and like
start a new life.
Because she blames herself for her parents' divorce. Speaking about how this game approaches divorce and relationships in general, it's a very simplistic and shallow view of those things. The thesis of this game seems to be, why do people get divorced? It's because you lost touch with your old hobbies in the good old days. You just need to rekindle your love for gardening, and then your relationships will be fine. It doesn't address anything like the number one reason most relationships fail, which is due to financial stress or disagreements on
bad cooking,
on life goals or incompatible values. No, it's just you lost touch with the good old days. You need to reminisce about that first ski trip you took, and everything will be fine. Just pave over all any incompatibilities you may have. No, it's really simplistic. If you're going to this game for relationship advice, it's like outright harmful, I would think. Don't pay attention to the values this game presents. Just pay attention to the fun platforming.
That gameplay, though.
Yeah. And that scene you alluded to with, at one point, for no real discernible reason,
I thought they had to get her attention.
Cody and May have a theory, an unsubstantiated theory, that if they can get Rose to cry, it'll reverse this curse that was put on them. And the way they go about doing that is essentially they put out an assassination on Rose's favorite toy. And the scene where they carry it out is the most tonal whiplash I've ever seen.
Is that like a Hitman level?
On the face of it, this game seems pretty, fun for kids, right?
Right.
And then
the art style would suggest.
It would, very much so. And the gameplay, you want to be game fluent, but it's not like, it's a pretty easygoing game. It's reluctant to hit you with a hard fail state. You both need to be like dead for your progress to be reset.
Good builders in Fortnite will find this game a breeze.
Yes. We were not finding ourselves frustrated with the gameplay challenge, but if you struggle with 3D spaces,
like Bailey,
maybe avoid this game.
Okay.
There are a few tricky platforming bits. But yeah, this game that on the face of it looks like it would be appropriate for anyone of all ages. Really like harrowing scene where they're killing the stuffed animal. I guess it's put in there for laughs. It certainly didn't seem funny to me.
It's funny to the Europeans.
You think so?
Josef Fares is like, this is hilarious.
It was wild. I actually could not believe what I was watching unfold on the screen.
Oh my God.
Just from the scene I was in prior to that, going into it, it's just like, and I'm the tonal whiplash guy. I find it super charming in Yakuza when you go from the human trafficking main plot to, man, I hope I can get this guy to ask out the cashier at Burger King sub-story. It works in Yakuza, and boy, did it not work here. Somewhere the wires got crossed, and it did not get translate. So the wild clashing narrative tones really threw me for a loop. But I almost have an easier time forgiving my misgivings with the story because, given that it's a co-op game, and you have a person you're there chatting with and coming up with solutions together, bouncing ideas off of each other. The fact that you're conversing with someone on the couch next to you
is the perfect story substitute.
Yes, kind of. It almost inherently decreases the emphasis on the game's plot because your focus isn't solely on what is happening in the game. You've got a person you're engaged with.
Yeah.
And that applies to like any co-op game I've played. I pay less attention to the Halo cutscene stories when I'm in party chat with the boys and we're either
Better
talking...
Kyle's on your lap.
Yeah, when we're talking about the game or our life or outside events, it almost inherently de-emphasizes the plot of the game. And I think that is to It Takes Two's benefit in this case.
Yeah.
If this was a single-player game, my issues with the story would be more egregious, if that makes sense.
It does. It super does.
But yeah, story misgivings aside, everything else about this game...
I might have liked Immortality if you were next to me.
Yeah, because we could goof on it together
like, what is
or
this?
gasp. And yeah, but I really, really did like It Takes Two. Criticisms aside, it charmed me.
It's the best of its kind.
I think it is the best of its kind. Not that there's a lot of competition.
There's only 4 other kinds.
There's very few
Portal
competitors.
2, A Way Out, Brothers, Eternal Sons, and then...
Brothers is a single-player game.
Yeah, sure it is, Chris. Tell that to righty and lefty.
Right. So yeah, I recommend It Takes Two if you have a partner who's willing to play a pretty long co-op game. It took us 11 hours to finish it, which isn't long by video game standards, but you need to have...
We didn't even finish A Way Out.
Right, and that game probably is a little bit shorter.
Twice as long.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't know.
You can't make progress unless your partner's available, so it makes it harder to chip away at this game. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I loved it. And it was fun to talk about. Oh.
And now we are done talking about it.
Almost done talking about it.
Almost.
We've only had this fun segment once before. You ready for this? What has Dan been playing?
Yay!
Dan's been playing It Takes Two.
Fun music cue.
Dan, I seem to be a fan. Last he told me he was right at the end, like a level or 2 left.
Yeah.
And he's been enjoying it. I should have asked him for deeper thoughts. He's also been playing...
I want him to much in the way that you're like, I loved the ending of Bayonetta 3, for him to be like, Dr. Hakim is hilarious.
The humor was included for Dan.
And just watch your pupils dilate.
Right. That would get me as inflamed as the Bayonetta 3 haters.
I gotta figure out why Bayonetta 3 sucks.
And Dan's also been playing Slay the Spire.
Yay!
And he digs it, which I think checks out. He's got an aptitude for board games, and that's very board game, tabletop-y strategy. He likes...
Dan's a silent killer.
He is, although he does not like the silent. He likes the ironclad class.
Oh, this is a deck build?
This is Slay the Spire terminology. Which class do you pick? Dan the Silent Killer prefers ironclad.
I'm just thinking of, like, I think you described the Dicey Dungeons
classes.
Main classes, yeah. Or no, what's the train one?
Oh, Monster Train.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the Monster Train classes.
Sure. Those are all the same game.
Sure.
Cool. All right,
and
now,
this one was cool. As opposed to when I was like, Bayonetta's not that cool.
Sure, yeah. All right, final thing I've been playing is we're moving on
Yakuza.
to once again, I've been playing 2019's Game of the Year, but this time I actually mean Sekiro. Yeah, I've been playing Sekiro Shadows Die Twice by From Software.
How was the gorilla fight?
I'm not that far.
How was the...
This will be early impressions. I'm 9 hours in.
Have you met up with...
I did.
Yeah.
That totally got me.
It gets everyone. There's like an hour-long compilation of everybody on the internet that gets got.
I forget if I laughed or said, "You've got to be kidding me."
Unbelievable, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the most Dark Souls game that's not Dark Souls.
So here's the fun thing. In the almost 5 years we've been doing this podcast, neither of us have ever brought a From Software game to the show.
Well, I mean, we're waiting for Scott to come on the Discord and be like, you guys are about to hit 100 episodes and not even mention a single soul.
Right. So
as soon as they put Bloodborne on the PS6,
yeah, we
that
deserve,
might happen.
We deserve a Bloodborne remaster. But speaking of Bloodborne, that's my one touchstone to the From Software catalog.
That's a good touchstone.
I played that game, finished it, really liked it. This was
supposed to.
This predates the podcast. This was in 2017.
So does most of my game playing.
Wow, self-burn there. Yeah, Bloodborne really stuck with me. Great game. It was a draining experience. So tiring, in fact, that it took me 6 years before I felt ready to tackle another From Software game.
So yeah, in Bloodborne, if you attack, you earn some of your health back, and then in Sekiro, it's just all about poise and stagger.
It's all about breaking the opponent's poise before yours is depleted. Yep.
Right.
Hey, this is Chris from the editing booth, cutting in with a correction. Heath and I are going to use the word poise an awful lot during the Sekiro segment. The actual in-game term we're referring to is called posture. So whenever you hear us say poise, you can safely assume we're talking about posture. In listening back, it was driving me crazy, so I just had to set the record straight. I am entering Sekiro with a lot of preconceived notions. I've heard a lot of conversations about this game. I know the premise. This is the From Software game where you deflect everything. It's all about the block button.
Okay. I feel like Neo 2 is the same way.
Okay. This is a game where if you ask yourself, should I be dodging? Should I be attacking? Should I be managing my stamina? The answer is no.
None of that.
You just block. That's all there is to it.
Because it's almost more blocking than Wilmot's Warehouse.
It's so emphasized, in fact, that the calling card of a From Software boss fight, you go through the mist, right? You emerge on the field, and then the big, imposing enemy health bar takes up entire top center screen.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, here we go. Sekiro almost subtly hints to you that depleting your opponent's health is not the goal. The health bars are small and in the upper left. What takes center stage in a Sekiro fight is your opponent's poise meter. That's what appears in the middle. Poise is kind of like how tired out you have made your opponent by deflecting their blows and countering. It's like their composure, you can think of it.
I'm thinking of For Honor.
Oh, sure. That's also a sword play hand-to-hand combat game.
Yeah, if you tucker yourself out, your opponent can just have their way with you.
Yes.
Your head is coming off.
Same thing in Sekiro. If you manage to exhaust your opponent by maxing out their poise meter, you open them up for a death blow, which is in essence, you stab them right through the chest and they go down.
Yeah.
Regardless of how big their health bar was. The health bar is like irrelevant in this game. It's just, can you open them up to the death blow?
Huh.
And then the bosses will often require...
So it really is attrition.
It really is attrition. And the game incentivizes a lot of aggression because if you back off for too long, their poise will start to recover. You need to keep the blows / deflects coming fast and furious. Can't back off because even if you back off, yeah, your poise will recover, but so will theirs, and all of your hard work will be for naught. Sword and board, it is not, given the common play style in the Dark Souls games. You need to be hounding the opponent. Let's see, more preconceived notions I had going in. I knew this was simultaneously kind of like the most and least accessible From Software game. The most accessible...
I think the least accessible From Software game is Metal Wolf Chaos.
What makes it so inaccessible?
I have to save America. Cancel all my meetings.
That's where you play as the president, right?
Mr. President. And the reason is because I'm the president of the United States.
Nice. That's the only line I know from that game.
I could. Oh, there's about. That's only like that's in the top 20
Oh,
There's so many good lines.
there's like a dozen better lines than that.
Not better. No,
But
that one's wicked strong.
Equally ridiculous. Okay. In some ways, Sekiro is less intimidating than other From Software games to approach because it's far less of a RPG. Where in Dark Souls, you have to like custom tailor this build.
Yep.
And you can just hop online to get advice, which I would probably do, but you've got a bunch of stats to manage. Like, okay, am I going to be a magic user? Am I going to be like a big sword wielder guy, sword and shield, or dexterity? You can effectively make bad build decisions, right? You can make a less viable build, and then you'll be less effective in fights.
Less effective. Practically soft lock yourself.
Right, unless you respec.
Grind for so long and respec, yeah.
And exploration's a big part of Dark Souls, other From Software games where there might be the ticket to your success is this weapon that you just don't know exists in the game, and it's hidden far off the beaten path, and you need to look up an esoteric guide to sequence break and find the weapon that'll suit your play style. And until you do that, you're going to be really struggling. This is all not the case in Sekiro. Sekiro, you've got one weapon. You don't ever have to worry that you're never concerned that you're missing something in Sekiro. You have the tools to succeed. It's
just a skill issue.
It's just a skill issue. That's why it is simultaneously the most accessible and least accessible From Software game.
That's cool.
It is not an RPG. It's just a straight up action game.
Probably, yeah, you would recommend this to me first.
Probably.
Because I can't play Bloodborne.
I'd probably also recommend it first because apparently From Software aficionados need to unlearn habits to play this game. Which thankfully I did not suffer from. It's like managing your stamina bar and dodging. Dodging is really...
It's counterintuitive.
You have so many iframes in Dark Souls where dodging is not your friend in Sekiro. You want to be blocking all the time. So you've got to unlearn some bad habits. So cool. Yeah, the skill issue component.
What's Sekiro's name?
Well, people call him just like the shinobi or wolf. And then I eventually found one guy who said, I think I'll call you Sekiro. So yeah, I guess his name is Sekiro. That was a surprise to me.
Why does he die twice?
Oh, because he has the blood of the divine heir.
Oh, that explains it.
But watch out for that dragon rot.
So once I died once, can I still beat the game?
What are you worried about exactly?
Can I get that life back?
Can you get that life back? You go down once, and the subtitle of the game, "Shadows Die Twice," alludes to the fact that there's a resurrect mechanic in this game. You essentially get a second chance.
Right.
Yeah, you can still beat the game.
Oh, okay.
Every time you reach the equivalent of a bonfire, which is called an idol in this game, and you rest,
you humanity back up.
You refill that spent resurrection, and
that's why there's no Estus flask in this game.
There are healing gourds,
okay,
which are basically just health potions you chug, just like an Estus flask. You also get
that's what I'm going to call pumpkin spice lattes from now on. So stupid.
But yeah, because of it being far less of an RPG, you cannot, if you're struggling, you can't go back and grind levels against the trash mobs. There aren't stats for you to endlessly upgrade.
At all?
No. You can upgrade your health, but it's tied to finding items in the game that bosses drop, which means like if you're struggling with a boss, you're not going to be able to necessarily upgrade your health until you beat it. Yeah, you can't grind really. All the items that give you a stat bonus are tied to defeating certain enemies.
You might not beat this game.
There is a distinct possibility I reach a skill threshold requirement that surpasses my ability.
And then you got to call Big Daddy over to beat it for you.
And there is no summoning in help in this game, which also makes it intimidating. Because the Dark Souls games, if you're really struggling, there's the mechanic where you can get help from another player. And no, Sekiro, you're a lone wolf. You're by yourself. So lots of things that make it...
I thought you were a shinobi.
There's less mechanically to come to grips with to play it, but the skill issue component, there's less ways to mitigate skill issue.
Yeah.
It's just do or die. And that's why it has a polarizing reputation in the From Software catalog. It's pretty different from the rest of the games they've made in that way. How am I finding it? Do I like this game? Yes, I do.
Yeah, you probably should.
I do. I went in a bit hesitant. I went in kind of just because I felt like as a fan of video games, I kind of owed it to myself to get to grips with this game, figure out what it was all about. Even if
That's how I feel about Halo.
Yeah. It's kind of like a blemish on your gamer cred.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt about Sekiro. It's funny. This game, it is so unconcerned with you having a good time. It's less a piece of entertainment software and more of a
challenge generator.
Right, a challenge generator, an obstacle to overcome. It feels less like playing, more like, I could be playing Sekiro or practicing a musical instrument. They both demand such focus and meticulous execution. But I am coming to enjoy it. Here's the Chris enjoyment over time bell curve.
The Chris CEOBC.
Yeah. Opening 2 hours tutorial time. I didn't think it was too bad. It actually, I feel like the first few challenges it throws at you, very doable, especially if you go in with the inherent knowledge that I should be trying to deflect everything. You might run into trouble if you don't know that going in. So emphasize that point. This is the deflection game. All right, first two hours, I was thinking, okay, this Sekiro game, really not that bad. Then I start hitting the mini bosses.
In the rice field.
These are guys like the Chained Ogre.
Yep.
Or
at the top of the stairs, right?
Top of the stairs. And especially the Shinobi Hunter.
Oh.
He's a guy with a big spear. He's on the hunt for you. I come up to these mini bosses. The challenge is starting to ramp up. And I'm getting some frustration. This is still very early goings. At this point, my stats are abysmal. Man,
I thought you said there weren't stats.
You've got a health bar.
Okay.
Once you knock out a few mini bosses, you have enough prayer beads to get a slightly bigger health bar.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not like you're grinding levels. You're getting like specific named items that will, if you cash them in, you'll boost your health. I was getting frustrated with these bosses. My health pool was so low. The room for error was kind of non-existent. I could take 1 or 2 hits max before Sekiro would be Seki done. Also, the save points were just far enough away from the Shinobi Hunter mini-boss guy to be kind of a grind because I'd have to dispatch 6 enemies on the way to get him. 2 of them had shields, which tough to take care of them.
That's extra poise right there.
That's extra poise. The path to get to that mini-boss was just long enough and just enough dead time. If I could immediately retry, it would have been far less frustrating. Yeah, so that was the low point. The initial challenge posed by the first batch of mini-bosses, I was considering dropping the game, but I did power through. I just wish they had set them closer to your checkpoint. And I think their inclusion is good. That Shinobi Hunter guy, he makes a lot of sense. He's there to teach you the Makiri counter, which is your like get out of jail free card against any thrust attack.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. I understand why they included him. He serves a very specific design purpose. No issue with that. I was getting salty at this point. I get past them. I reach the first like proper bosses of the game. We're talking about people like Lady Butterfly and the
I thought we were done talking about Bayonetta.
Yeah, that's her name, Lady Butterfly. And the giant guy on a horse.
Yeah.
He's cool.
I thought we're talking about Elden Ring now? I'm so confused.
And I've got to say, there's no way to phrase this without flexing my huge gamer cred. The first few proper bosses in Sekiro, they've gone down quick for me. Lady Butterfly, I beat on my first try.
Whoa.
I was shocked.
You're like a roll of newspaper.
Yeah, the general on the horse, it took me 2 attempts.
Turned him into glue, you did.
He's super sticky now. So I dispatched them without too much trouble. And then I'm like, okay, I kept playing. I was
Who's
reaching
next?
I was reaching the top of Ashina Castle. And I know what happens at the top of Ashina Castle.
I don't.
This is the most iconic boss in Sekiro. It's the third boss.
The gorilla.
It's Genichiro.
Oh, okay.
Genichiro, the samurai with the big bow and arrow.
Yeah.
I've heard so much talk about Genichiro. He's apparently the great filter. If you can get past Genichiro, apparently you have the resolve to eventually finish the game.
Oh, he's like the tutorial in Cuphead.
He's the weed out class. So I went in, cool as a cucumber. Like, okay, I was just expecting to get fucked up by this guy for hours if need be. And I beat him on the second try. Oh. I could not. I was floored by it. Oh. I let out a huge hell yeah. So I am not struggling to nearly the extent I thought I was. Everything I've heard about Sekiro, playing Sekiro in general, it seemed like the game.
Genichiro will rock you. You're totally not ready. You need to beat Asylum Demon at least 50 times before you're ready to play Genichiro.
This game sounded like it demanded perfection from the player. And so far, in my experience, it really does not. I don't feel like I've mastered this game. I feel like I'm playing average, but I know that I need to deflect. So I'm heavily relying on deflect, and that's carrying me. Mm-hmm. It's carrying my average skills to success. So
you're like the guy that practices for the French oral exam, but has mastered enough turns of phrase to be like, oh, c'est toi, comment je sens?
I'm getting a lot of leverage out of the very basics.
Je deflect.
Yeah.
You took French, right?
I did.
Yeah.
Oui. So I'm quite enjoying Sekiro. I will say, one thing that's kind of cool, it feels like more of a boss rush game than my experience in Bloodborne, where these stretches of time between the boss encounters are pretty short. You're so agile with your grapple hook that you can bypass a lot of the regular run-of-the-mill rank-and-file enemies.
I forgot there was a grapple hook.
Yeah. And there's a stealth component to this game where you can sneak up on guys and take them out. So I don't have to engage. I can circumvent a lot of the regular fighting if I want to and just charge at those bosses. Exploration has not been as rewarding as Bloodborne. The world of Sekiro is not as compelling to me as how cool Yharnam was.
Yeah.
However, where it falls short in like the lore and maybe even like the character designs, I think
fewer aliens, I bet.
Fewer aliens. Although there's some weird stuff going on with the Buddhist temple area.
It's that is true.
I think the minute-to-minute gameplay combat mechanics of Sekiro are compelling me more than even a Bloodborne. I like the deflection-focused approach to combat. I've heard people say this is the best swordplay you've ever seen in a video game. And if
Mordhau looks pretty good.
Okay. That's first person, right? Yeah. I don't think I've seen enough of Sekiro to back up that claim, but it's a contender. It's really good. I've also heard Sekiro called like one of the best rhythm games out there, and I can see why. You do really get into a pattern recognition, rhythm deflecting mode, and I dig it. So yeah, I am enjoying Sekiro more than I thought I would. Good game. I'll tell you if I football punt my controller on the ground, but when I fight the giant ape guy, or not.
That you mean football spike? If you football punted your controller, you'd have to walk over and get it.
Oh yeah, I'd have to
be like 30 yards away.
I'd shatter my toes.
Very cool.
Very cool. That is everything I've been playing.
Let's skip the Barbie movie.
Skip it.
Yeah.
What's our runtime at?
We're at an hour 15.
Okay, very good. That's enough games we've been playing. How about we take a quick break and come back with emails and discussion?
Yeah. Hey, guess who's in the Dead by Daylight game?
Oh, I think I know.
Let me give you a hint.
I think I know. Is it Nicolas Cage?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Dead by Daylight, featuring all your favorite horror intellectual properties. Like the Scream, it's got the Scream mask, right? He stabs you, and the girl from The Ring. Oh, right. Nicolas Cage
as himself, right?
As a survivor. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you stuck with Dead by Daylight for a long time.
Yeah.
You haven't had hands on with it in a while.
No,
though.
at least 100 days.
But
it gets such frequent updates. I'm always seeing it in the queue.
Do you feel like, is it intimidating now that you've like fallen behind the update schedule?
There's no update that you could make to the game that would change my global ranking. I'm still dumpster trash generator doer survivor.
Okay.
I'm terrible at rescues. I'm terrible at pursuits or chases. I just like doing gens is what it's called. Doing gens. So if we boot it up, I'll have fun, but I'll absolutely get owned. I know how to build a good character, but that's where my expertise ends.
Is the thought of Nicolas Cage in Dead by Daylight tantalizing enough to try jumping back in?
His perks, the perks that come with him, obviously you can play as Nicolas Cage with any perks, but the ones that debuted with him are meant for like the high skill players. There's like a Showtime perk that like if the killer looks at you, you reveal yourself to him for 2 seconds, but you're also 10% faster through windows or something crazy like that. What would interest me in getting back into Dead by Daylight is if I watch a certain video and it's really fun from Otstarva or somebody. Not
okay.
Somebody. They would have to be from Otstarva.
Good to get an update on that game after
Nicolas
so
Cage.
long. Any other news you'd like to highlight?
No, that's it.
Nah? All right, then while we're knocking out quick things, we've got a follow-up from J-Dog. Last email.
J-Dog.
Here comes an email.
J-Dog DC.
Ahoy, Heath and Chris.
Hey.
Actually,
Shiver me timbers.
This email probably won't spark a lot of conversation, but it's a good follow-up.
Does he have a fun subject line? He seems like the guy that would do that.
It's not fun at all. It says reply to receiver email.
I stand corrected.
So in last episode where Heath and I were pondering what a receiver could be, this is in response to that. J-Dog says, receivers can be used for computers or TV or really any devices. When I had one at my Syracuse house, I actually had my receiver attached to a record player and Bluetooth to play music from my phone.
Yeah.
Honestly, that description just made me even more confused to what a receiver could be.
No, it's just like your parents had one for the TV in the family room.
Did they?
Yes, they did.
You know this.
Yeah, I know this.
Okay.
No, just get a Sony whatever. Just wait for something a Sony to go on sale. You don't need 7-channel audio, you just need stereo.
Continuing with the email, here is some background on my issue. I have 2 large bookshelf speakers and threw out my old broken receiver and want an amp/receiver combo to power the speakers. I am more interested in monitors, to be honest, but I think I messaged the wrong people for this based on your answers. Given my high-end recommendations and Heath's, I play on this ghosting TV from the 90s. J-Dog says, missed the days with Heath sleeping on my couch. Also, that big-ass TV is gone, unfortunately.
Why?
Hashtag Team Heath, cheers, J-Dog.
That was a nice catch. Circa 2019.
Right. Yeah, if he moves states, so that would be a pain to ship.
I'll find a way. Oh, good point with the amplifier. We have bypass speakers at work, so it's just a loudspeaker, horns they're called, and then they connect to the amplifier, and then the amplifier would connect to the receiver. So, the prerequisite that it's got to be the amp affects things. Why don't I? My brother has a Sweetwater, because you know how he's super popular with the Mexican guitarists on TikTok.
Oh, yeah, that's his niche.
Yeah, so if I plug his Sweetwater affiliate code, J-Dog could probably get a deal on the type of thing that they would sell at that site. I'll insert it there.
All right. Not sponsored.
I mean,
Well, your brother was
it
sponsored.
would benefit my brother, who doesn't need more benefit. He's making more money than me, partly because he lives in San Francisco, so the cost of living is much higher,
astronomical.
And he's also has a much more popular show than we do.
Sure.
We should throw a bone to our affiliate code, but we don't have one.
Right.
And then the monitors, I mean, the same prerequisite. Just make us decide between the two. And
you need to send us multiple choice.
Like, give us one of like different sizes and different refresh rates, and we can like duke it out.
Yes, to the death. All right, that concludes this email section.
I've never even seen 144 hertz refresh rate.
Once you see it, you can't go back.
I just feel like 60 frames per second HD is just fine.
It probably is for most people who aren't savants.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, J-Dog.
Thanks, J-Dog. Keep those emails coming. That brings us to our conversation topic.
Was I supposed to pick 10 different games that spell out the coordinates of where the body is buried? Sorry, go on.
No, thankfully not much prep work was required here. We're just going to talk about, and this topic has come up in various forms or another previously, but we're going to readdress it for fun because it's episode 90. We're going to talk about our motivations for playing games, why we play them, what intrinsic or extrinsic incentives keep us coming back.
Didn't we talk about this on episode like 86?
No. No. You think it's that recent? No way.
Do you have an update? I'm happy to entertain the update.
Sure. I've got an update for you. And at first you'll be like, oh yeah, these reasons make sense, Chris. And then I'll leave the more outlandish ones for later. And then you can push back on me with those.
Sure.
Sounds like a plan.
Yes.
But you're right. This topic has come up in various forms
Like
before.
the past 3 months.
No. I don't think so. Let's talk about the obvious one first. The pleasure of play.
Game Awards. Oh, sorry. I gotta know what to talk about.
Obviously, most games are, for one reason or another, pretty compelling to play when you're in the thick of it. But the best games, the ones that I think are the experiences I really resonate with me, they're pleasurable to play in the moment, but they also stick with you long after the fact. They leave a lasting impression. To highlight this dichotomy, the ideal pure pleasure during play, to me, is a Vampire Survivors.
Yeah.
I'm hook, line, and sinker when I'm plugging away at that game. But man, I have not made a lot of enduring memories from my time spent leveling up in Vampire Survivors.
I made one enduring memory.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, when the game like booted me back to the startup in Russian.
That is a pretty hype moment.
The heck was that?
It's just goofy. But yeah, the best games out there are the ones that pay you this recurring happiness dividend, where the memories you make every time I think of my time in Dishonored 2, whenever that comes up on a weekly basis, just a small little smile comes to my face. And I'm like, man, I'm really glad before I expired and turned to dust on my finite time on this earth, I made the time to play Dishonored 2. What a game. Clockwork Mansion, incredible. I play more games to chase that high, to find those experiences that every time they pop up into my head, it makes me happier to have experienced them. So I'm chasing that feeling. Those
You're
really
a junkie, Chris.
maybe a little bit. I feel like part of the reason I play, it can be attributed to a self-perpetuating cycle where
This is item number 2.
yeah, it's point number 2. I'm going to be meandering all over the place here. But yes, we covered like the happiness in the moment and paying dividends down the line. Now we're going into item number 2 here, which is the perpetuating cycle of, I feel the more familiar you are with any given art form, the more avenues exist that allow you to appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because you get a greater holistic context of like what's going on, the comparisons you can make to similar experiences, The satisfaction of building up this repertoire of information about video games as a whole that I derive some pleasure from, where I'm nowhere close to being a movie buff. I'm a movie novice. And
You've seen The Fifth Element, though.
I've seen The Fifth. I've got that on my report
That makes you
card.
at least intermediate level.
Nice. But yeah, being able to participate in the discourse around Game of the Year at the end of the year, having like actual opinions that I can present, that's an incentive for me.
The whole crux of the first episode of this show.
It really is. That curiosity exists for me to flesh out my own personal context for design trends that exist across the video game industry. That's a primary motivator for why I checked out Sekiro, as I mentioned earlier. I wasn't convinced it was going to be like the most entertaining time for me, but I felt like I owed it to myself as a consumer of video games and someone who cares about the medium to know what Sekiro is all about and get hands-on with it.
You think Sekiro would benefit from Sifu's rubber banding mechanic? You know how that fighting game Sifu, if you die, you go up in age,
which makes you hit harder, but
learn
hit
new moves
slower.
I thought like you're older, so you're wiser, so you're able to do like more combos.
Okay, there is this like double-edged sword of aging up in Sifu. I think you become more competent in some areas, but deficient in others.
The true challenge is trying to beat the game at age 20.
Yeah. There's probably like a bell curve where it's really hard at first, gets easier, but then once you're like really old, it gets hard again.
No. If you get really old, the game is easy.
Even
The whole point of the rubber band.
Oh, okay. I don't know enough about Sifu.
I almost know enough about Sifu to have this conversation.
I would find it amusing that the core premise of Sifu is the older you get, the better at martial arts you are permanently.
Well,
like you're in your one foot in the grave and you're like the best you've ever been.
The titular Sifu is the guy that's so old that he knows all the moves.
Oh, okay. That rubber banding makes sense in that context.
So if you died in Sekiro, I don't know. Back to number 3.
Number 3.
Which we kind of did, was being able to articulate opinions about games is a source of motivation.
Yeah.
On to number 4.
Surely would you cite this podcast as a motivator?
Chris, I said this 3 months ago when we talked about this same topic 3 months ago. If not for this podcast, I would play a fraction of the fraction of games that I play.
Right. I'm the reason you have a backlog at all. That was your
Yes.
complaint.
Yeah.
Not the case for me. I feel like if we didn't do this podcast, I'd definitely be playing the same amount of games, if not more, because I'd have slightly more free time.
You would have slightly more free time.
Yeah, I view the podcast not as a motivator for play, but as a bonus. It gives me an outlet for just like reflecting, a reason to reflect more on the games I play, not necessarily a reason to play in and of itself. So that's just an aside. But here we go. Here's the most outlandish claim I'm going to make, Heath.
Hit me.
And you can be the voice of reason here.
As a new role for me.
Maybe one you're not used to. Here's where I want to dig into
SteamWorld Dig.
the philosophy of work and play and the relationship that exists between the two. One thing that's been in the news a lot, and I want to do a topic on this in the not so distant future. AI, it's a big deal, especially in 2023.
Mark Brown Bandit from the GMTAK Cool Jam.
Yeah, that's now the Game Maker's Toolkit Game Jam.
Yeah, that's what I said.
That's now a requirement you need to have guidelines on, because
you can. I think you can't even do art.
Okay.
Like AI code, don't use it.
I saw there was like a community poll for this contest.
Right, yeah.
He solicited the feedback from people. Do you want AI involved in art assets or like code? Not at all.
Code maybe makes more sense than art.
So you don't consider coding an art form. I see.
Well, it's just it's just ones and zeros.
Yeah, it's all binary.
If you're a coder listening to this podcast, I got a message for you. Public void, suck my dick. Pick up beeper. That's a reference one person will get.
As I was saying, AI, it's on the horizon. It's here. We live in the future. We'll talk about it soon in its own dedicated topic. But as we creep more and more to like this productivity explosion that's going to happen in the workplace, where hypothetically AI will be so productive, so efficient, freeing up a lot of leisure time for people potentially, being able to accomplish so much more work in such a more limited time frame. Or at least that's the happy outcome of the AI revolution. More time spent outside of work for humanity as a whole. Freeing up to pursue whatever we care to do. I think about...
What do you think about, Chris?
I think about, since the Industrial Revolution, we're trying to automate, we're trying to remove the drudgery, the necessity of being productive as a human on Earth to sustain ourselves.
It was Jethro Tull's inspiration behind the seed driller was, I want to go play some baseball.
Humanity, we seem kind of obsessed at removing work from being a necessity. And of course, what is work? A quick Google search, the definition is any activity involving mental or physical effort done in order to achieve a purpose or result. So work, obviously I see the value in it. It makes the world turn round and round. I'm fortunate enough to have landed a job. I believe in the purpose of my day-to-day tasks. I think it's making the world a better place. But hypothetically, maybe even in our lifetimes, we might reach a place where the 40-hour work week, work as a concept in general, becomes far more optional, just no longer required, or almost reaching a post-scarcity society. Hopefully, this is the best case scenario. But if such a thing were to occur, my mind wanders to how will people spend their days? What will people do? What activities will people do when there's no longer these external motivations to be productive and accomplish set tasks? Well, in the absence of things needing to be done, the only actions people will undertake are those that are inherently valuable. People will do activities where the reward is the activity. There is no perverse incentive on the outside that needs to be fulfilled. What is our word for intrinsically motivated activities? That word is play. In a post-scarcity society where the obligations of work have evaporated, well, how will people spend their time? Well, obviously, they'll spend it playing. Now, games aren't the sole outlet for play. They're one of the big ones for sure. But in a world where it seems like the end goal of automating work out of necessity would be for humanity to spend as much time as possible at play, doing activities free from those dirty external motivators, which leads me to my philosophy, I think resonates with me. What is an ideal life? It's a life spent at play as much as possible. And for that reason, I think games are incredibly valuable. What could be more pure and wholesome than undertaking an activity for no other reason than this is the most valuable thing to me at this one moment? There's no corrupting external motivator. It's just the activity itself is the reward. What could be better than that?
The sun rises. Chris sits down at his RGB keyboard and cracks open his Baja Blast. 8 hours later, the sun sets. I don't know why the sun set so fast. He then crinkles the Baja Blast and throws it over his shoulder, having played 8 hours in campaign of Warhammer 3 Cathay's Revenge.
8 hours well spent.
And his thought is, how noble of me. I have done the most virtuous thing I can do, which is maximize my play. Yummy, yummy, because I don't know what your tax dollars are going toward UBI. That's how you're rationalizing it?
Well, I mean, in this utopia, survival would be a given.
I'm such a bootlicker. I'll find some way to do menial work.
Yeah.
Even in the utopia. I would refill the water of the bird that like dips its beak into the thing.
Yeah.
I would find something as trivial as that to occupy my time. Oh, it looks like we have anything to say.
First of all, Chris, that was a beautiful, deep speech you just gave.
Oh, well, thanks.
That was very nice. Well, I heard the part about like the utopia and like what we would be doing if we didn't have to focus on work and stuff. I have so many different things I'd want to do. Mostly travel and scuba diving and DIY crafting and antiquing and playing with animals and doing art things. I could go on and on. There's so many fun things that we can't do because we're at work all the time. Now, don't get me wrong. Work is good. Work is good.
It's necessary.
It is necessary, and I enjoy going to work because it also fulfills some sort of purpose, right? It makes me feel like I am a part of society. I am doing good. I'm giving back to others. But then there are also so many other things I would love to do, and that just got me thinking about that. I want to go scuba diving.
You guys got it all wrong. Working is so much more preferable to play. I, of course, know this. I played Wilmot's Warehouse. I'm so eager to do work that when I'm playing, I do work. I'm trying to make my play as close to work as possible.
Ew.
I went to work today, this morning. I know. I could have been playing something.
I've got this.
What do you got, Chris?
Fear of the corrupting influence of external incentives. When there's a carrot at the end of a stick that's pushing your behavior instead of the behavior itself. Well, that's one reason I don't think we'd be earning much, but I would be very hesitant to try to monetize this podcast in any form because there's then that $sign that I'd no longer be doing it for the love of the craft. Part of me would want to get that paycheck. To illustrate the point, I've got a old-timey parable for you. It's called The Old Man on the Porch. I don't know where I picked this up from, but it resonated with me on some level, where there's an old man, he's retired, he hangs out on his porch in the morning, and the school children walk by on the sidewalk on their way to school passing him. These school children, they're jerks. They see the old man, they ridicule him, they tease him, they throw obscenities at him on their way to school. Ill-mannered children. But the old man, he catches a plan. As the children go by one day, he says, "Hey kids, you do such a good job making fun of me. I want to make sure your efforts go rewarded. Every time you tease me when you walk by, I've got $1 for each of you." The kids are like, "This is awesome." So they ridicule the old man just like normal, and he pays them each $1. He does this for the next few days. But 1 week later,
he takes away the $1.
He arrives and they're like, "Kids, times are tough. You can keep making fun of me, but I'm only going to be able to pay out 50 cents this time." Mm-hmm. The kids, slightly disappointed, they reluctantly agree still, make fun of the old man. They get half the payment. 1 week later, though, he's like, "Kids, you've got to keep it up, but I'm sorry, I'm out of cash. You'll have to just do it for free." They're like, "Man, it's not worth the effort." And the kids walk home silently to the school.
Yeah.
Never to bother him ever again.
What was that called? The Old Man on the Porch?
The Old Man on the Porch parable. The corrupting incentive of external motivators. If you aren't doing the activity...
And then I come along and I'm like, yeah, I'll still make fun of him because I like...
I'll pay you.
I'll pay you. Here, take my money.
Yeah. But part of it is, I think a happier life is one more process-oriented than goal-oriented. Goals, it's good to have goals, honestly. Like... you probably want some goals, but a life focused, laser...
You started this episode with resolution reminder.
But they're a fun sidebar. A life spent laser focused on goals, I think would be less fulfilling because ultimately, whether you accomplish the goal or not, meeting it is a fleeting moment. Fulfilling your goal is a speck in time where it's all you're consumed with up until meeting it, and then it's instantly a memory. Just a fleeting moment that is relegated to the past, where if you're process oriented, you're in the process every day, baby. If you like how you spend your time, what you do, how you play, you're not chasing goals. You're not on the hedonic treadmill. You are enjoying life as it comes. I think you're more present and probably more fulfilled. That's what I like so much about play. I forget about what is happening before a game of Vampire Survivors, and I forget about my concerns after. When I am dialed into a good game, everything else melts away. I am as present as can be, and I'm living in the moment, living in the process. Games with their procedural nature, I think they foster that kind of environment very well, and that's why I think a life spent playing as much as possible, be it games or other leisure pursuits, is one I want to sign up for.
I can't get behind this. I'd be lying if I said that your point about forgetting your troubles before, forgetting your troubles after dialing in is unique to you. I think back to my thousands of hours in Civilization 5. But no, I can't endorse this. The two versions of Chris, one who has done full campaigns of every faction in Warhammer 3.
Oh, that sounds great.
Compared to the one that let's just say develops a game in the same amount of time that our listeners can play, or whoever, right? And
sure.
Anybody like Mark Brown can play. The latter is more preferable, surely.
Now, I don't think
for all involved.
I think I think what you just said there can exist in tandem with what I believe.
But the former was more hedonistic.
Sure. So to me, play is just
a more laborious Chris is a better Chris.
I think the creation of art would fall under play.
Tell that to debugging.
Tell
that to QA.
I mean, if you really believe in what it is you're creating, you'll feel compelled to go to great lengths to polish it to its the perfect iteration it can be.
Yeah.
I'm with you, Heath. I haven't fully
drank your own Kool-Aid.
Checked into the mental asylum here. We don't live in this post-scarcity world I think could be on the table someday. Until we do, I think accomplishing meaningful tasks and working to automate more of the workload, to make less work that needs to be done in the future, is an admirable and worthwhile task to pursue. We should not be playing all the time right now. But I think before you and I are buried 6 feet underground, I think we're going to live in a very different world, be it in a decade, much more even the case beyond that, where 40-hour work week is going to look, it's going to be like imagining the world pre-internet. It's going to be a total paradigm shift. And I'm looking forward to it. Now it's, of course, if AI goes a good way and not a bad way.
Well, yeah, what was the Google bot that became self-aware, right?
Oh, like a chat bot?
Well, it was able to communicate. It developed its own language with like another plugin.
Oh, that's right. So it could talk in secret without being observed.
They had to shut that down.
Yeah.
Let's revisit this conversation in 3 months.
But yeah, when games can be made under circumstances that don't involve crunch, don't need to appease the corporate shareholders. There's tons of people out there who love to make games.
I kind of
love it.
I'd be playing another Lucas Pope right now if he crunched a little bit. That new Lucas Pope is still so far away.
You need to get that weird device, the Playdate.
I gotta get that Playdate.
There's a secret Lucas Pope
Martian
game on
Seeking
there.
Martian or whatever it's called.
But no, I think the creation of art is totally play. Like I said, games are not the sole outlet for play. By no means do they have a monopoly.
Your maxim about a life with maximum play as a life most valuable you're obfuscating that like it's all subjective. You would totally check out if I waved the stick as opposed to the carrot and was like, we gotta crank out this build the next 6 months to meet the summer deadline. But I think a more laborious Chris is a better Chris.
Yeah, you're saying the effort of making a modern video game takes years, very labor intensive. People start out with a lot of passion and motivation, but it could burn out and those projects could get abandoned without external motivators like a profit incentive, like keeping your job.
The net pleasure from you and your cohorts maximizing their play as opposed to the one Toby Fox that just doesn't quit, and then we end up with Megalovania. That sign me up for the latter. I need to be Toby Fox.
You need to be Toby Fox. And
Yeah.
you're saying there just aren't many dedicated Toby
If
Fox
everybody
types.
aspired to be Toby Fox, we'd have 5 Megalovanias by now. But we got suckers like you that try to like crack open the Baja Blast. Oh, I want to play Dishonored 2 again. Thank God for my federally funded universal basic income and my ball trimmer so I don't have to bend down. This is the life.
I mean, I kind of hear what you're saying. My counterpoint is no point in the past decade have I ever felt like I don't have enough games to play. I'm drowning, dude.
You are.
Drowning.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we don't have 5 Undertales,
You're
but
drowning, and I'm the CEO of the Ocean Gate Titanic tour guide.
okay. Yeah, you're saying in my world there might not be as many games, but I think we've got plenty coming out.
It's fine. Yeah.
We live in content overload, oversaturation.
And I'm saying
That would dry up.
your motivation, yeah. Be motivated to play those games, but within reason. Touch grass.
Yeah. I mean, I have no problem saying I'm unreasonably motivated to play these games.
I mean, I wouldn't leave this state if it weren't for Bailey. But she wants to go south.
Sure.
I'm gonna have to be outside more.
Oh.
I kind of like not having to go outside because the weather's bad up here.
It is you avoid
boon.
the FOMO. Like I'm not missing out on anything.
Right.
There's a blizzard.
If it were 60 year round, 60 Fahrenheit for us American viewers, I wouldn't even beaten Mass Effect 1 yet.
Yeah.
Because I'd have to go to the beach.
You don't
All that
have
sand. To. Yes, I do. I signed up for that.
Well, that sounds like a you problem.
It is. Yeah. I'm just
Hey, if you have an outlet for your play you prefer to prioritize, more power to you. Then you're even having a better time.
right, but at the expense of those around me.
Those being
I sacrifice my moments of play so that I can bring this show to people, like be Bailey's companion, like things like
I would consider
I have
those
a less pleasurable life. I would much rather hook up to my ball trimmer and play Frostpunk all day long.
I would also consider the production of this podcast as play, as producing art.
Yeah, but we're talking about like it's hedonism, right? So it's of a lesser pleasure than if I did a different activity. You would enjoy tennis, maybe not to the extent of Clockwork Mansion.
And that's why I haven't played tennis in years.
Right. But if I'm like, hey, let's go play tennis, right? That's great for me, but it's at your expense, even though it is a pleasurable activity.
I would only agree to it if I felt it was justified.
Okay, yeah, and part of what goes into the justification is what if I'm like terminally ill, like what, like if Samantha wants to go play tennis, you say yes, and yeah.
In that moment, if I played tennis, it would be because
And I'm saying you sacrificing the pleasure to satisfy her hedonistic requirements is just a short stone's throw away to getting in the crunch chamber to bang out this build so that everybody can play Chris
Chris Sims.
Yeah, I'd play that
Would you?
for my own purposes.
Yeah, you're getting at the opportunity costs.
I'm just trying to explain why your philosophy is such a bitter pill to swallow. Because you could be handing out so much tastier pills to everybody.
More net hedonism going on.
Yeah. That's why I'm kind of dreading moving. Because I get more of your little pleasure machine up here.
Sure. Okay.
That machine is off when the weather's nice.
Yeah. But you're satisfying
I'm
like
hijacking your
external incentives there. You're doing it to.
Well, you think those will ever go away? No,
because they bring more value to your life than the games do. So in that way, you've chosen.
Partly why I bring so few games.
Yeah, you're just choosing what you prefer. You're just following. You're falling right into my philosophy.
I prefer to be playing games.
If you really did, I think you would, though. If you weighed all the variables and actually came to that conclusion, you'd make whatever changes were necessary to make that a reality.
To play, but I can't.
You're not being compelled at gunpoint, though. You've weighed all the options.
Girl point.
But girl point brings so many net benefits to your life.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. That you've weighed the opportunity cost and decreed that the girl life is better than the Frostpunk life. Otherwise, you wouldn't behave that way.
True.
So you're acting in accordance with your incentives. You're playing to the best ability you can.
I guess so. Yeah.
So really, you just agree with me. End it there.
No, because the perfect scenario for you is that 8 a.m. and then a clock out at 8 p.m.
Yes. To make that a reality right now in 2023 with the way the world works, though, I'd become destitute and then starve, and then there would be no games. So I'm just following all of my play incentives right now, which necessitate, earning an income and feeding myself.
Yeah, I guess those are necessities. All right, I pushed us to the 2-hour mark. You're welcome, listener.
Perfect. That was meandering enough.
I'll trim it down.
Yeah, there'll be fluff. Let's close out this podcast. Heath.
Hey, if you want to, we forgot to say at the beginning of the thing, if you wanted to write in like J-Dog.
Yes.
You need only send us an email to mobiustubespodcast@gmail.com.
Yes, mobiustubespodcast@gmail.com. We read every single email. You too can receive unhelpful purchase advice from us with your receiver needs. And I'm sure you're looking forward to turning the AC back on, Heath.
Let's get it cranking.
Get it ass blasted.
All right, that's it.
All right, that's it. Bye.